Peace and blessings, Akashic Living family. Thank you so much for tuning into another episode. Oh, I say it every time, but I mean it. We got another special one today. We got a special episode, special conversation I'm looking to tee off. As you know, it's National Mental Health Awareness Month. What better time to dig into the topic of self-love than right now? We're going to be talking about self-love today. We're going to be talking about self-love with none other than Margarita Donies. She's from National Therapeutic Alliance in, get me right, you're in Florida, Margarita. Give me the exact.
Yes. In Pembroke Pines, Florida.
She's in, what city is that again?
Pembroke Pines.
Pembroke Pines. Actually, it's so funny. So I used to live not too far from Pembroke Pines. So I'm familiar with the area, but also familiar with the topic of self-love. And I'm super glad to have you here today to discuss self-love, to discuss your journey as a trauma therapist and how you help people, as you say, unpack their messy closet and give them the space and the tools to help, tie up some of the unfinished business as a result of trauma. So super excited about the conversation. Blessings, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's awesome that we got to connect so quickly and all of a sudden, through Dolly and me reaching out. She said, you should reach out to Andre. I'm like, all right, I do as I'm told. Hi.
Dolly is amazing. Dolly is amazing. She's such a connector and just a breath of fresh air and a light for everyone that she comes into contact with. So I'm so blessed to be able to meet her and have the conversation, of course, which led to us connecting, as you said, and the divine timing of it all, right? We're in National Mental Health Awareness Month, where people are actively seeking out tools to improve their mental health, their understanding of their practice and what they're practicing. So, with today's theme being self-love, one thing we know is that people who are healers, such as yourself, typically have done the work to heal themselves, right? You've become your own scientist, if you will. So
I sure hope so.
I hope so too, but no.
I mean, listen, there's some people. Some people have not. But we're gonna help them
healer.
too.
Yes, the wounded healer can get help too. But the proof is in the pudding. We've had conversations, and just hearing about your journey, I would love for you to share with the audience about your healing journey and what led you to where you are right now, being a healer and helping those in need.
Yeah. So you want the short version, the long version? Like how
Whatever
much time?
Version feels free. Let it flow.
I think healing for me, unbeknownst to the fact that I was healing myself, it started in my teen years, like easily writing in my diary. I've always been very observant. I've always, I don't know if this was just the environment I grew up in, or it's just some sort of gene I have in me, but I pay attention a lot. I see a lot of things. I see what others don't see. I kind of see it coming. I see it going. And that could be very disruptive to the person if you don't know how to manage that. Too much information too soon is an issue because you don't even know how to perceive it all. But it is the foundation of what led me to where I am today, now that it's under control and I can use the trait. But growing up in the home I was in, I know my parents loved me and they really loved each other, but they did have this example that love was pain and suffering and endurance, and you deal with anything you have to, you deal with everything and anything and you remain put. And I'm not knocking that. I'm not saying that relationships aren't hard and that commitment isn't, obviously in sickness and in health and the good and bad and everything. But leading up to my journey of self-love, there is a point where we have to recognize that in our remaining in certain environments, we're no longer loving ourselves. We're actually stabbing ourselves. We're hurting ourselves in order to love you. And so that's where the equation is just not okay. There's no reason why I need to continue to endure pain so that you can receive love. And I should not do that. So anywho, growing up there and being observant, I went on to this journey where I realized that I was good at conflict resolution. And whether it's fortunate or unfortunate, I was often, in between my parents' arguments, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate. I should have never been there as a parent. I don't think that's correct. But I learned that there's something gets activated in me to problem solve.
Mm.
I wasn't the one who caves in and just shies away. I was the one who was looking to solve, and in an unhealthy way, that looked like the placater. Like, how do we just get them to shut up? How do we just make it better so this doesn't keep happening?
Correct.
And it made me, it put me in a position that was unhealthy at the time, but I did convert that to a healthy place of, okay, Maggie, you're good at conflict resolution. And if you're able to teach people the awareness that you have, and for them to gain their own awareness, and for them to recognize the issues, and then for them to go back to the drawing board, and for them to paint their own picture or repaint the picture, redraw it, then they can live better. And so eventually, at some point in college, I put those things together. I drew all the little dots, I put them together, having my own work and having my own challenges in relationships. And so it led me to here, to where I've, since 2020, have been on this journey of like, hey, you didn't really love yourself, and it started with a realization of who I was. And you would think, I'm 37 now. So 3 years ago, you would think I would have known who I was, right? I don't know. We have this thing about, oh, you're a 34-year-old woman. You should know what you're doing. And I agree. I mean, I think that if we do things on the right timeline and we are met with the right environment, by the time we are in our 30s, we should have a deeper understanding of who we are. But a lot of us aren't running on that. We're running on autopilot. We're running from things, not to them. And by the time we wake up, it's a little later in life. And so that journey of self-love was really paying attention to, number one, who I was, defining that, redefining it, and then understanding who stays, who goes. Because I was never picking people, situations based on self-love. I was just picking it on who's going to give it to me first. And that's not always best quality.
Wow. That's powerful. That's powerful. One, for you to recognize those qualities in yourself early on in life, right? And to be able to make the connection to something that you were passionate about, but then also utilize that not just to help yourself, but to share your gift with the world, right? Which is a beautiful thing, a beautiful thing. One of the things that with you being a trauma therapist, one of the things that popped into my mind as you were speaking is, when people are in a state of trauma and, whatever event happened, and then they move forward, but yet they're still kind of, ensnared by that particular event, and the lens through which they see the world is based on that trauma. How do you, or what is the disruptive component that awakens them to see that, okay, yeah, maybe I need to rethink or revisit exactly what is going on?
Yeah. So I always make this analogy, and by the way, things might seem simple, but I think that, I mean, there's a bunch of medical terminology for everything, but if we can explain it in a way where everyone can understand it, I think everyone can apply it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's the point. The point is to heal, not to be the smart one in the room, right? So, at least for me. So we have emotions and we have logic, right? We have the center of the brain where the amygdala is, and we have all these fancy names about emotions and parts where we have no words. It's just what we feel, central nervous system, etc. And then we have the front of our brain, it's where the executive functioning, where we make decisions. That's how we are driven. That's where logic mostly lies. And so there has to be a way with my clients, that I marry the emotion and the logic. So I usually talk about a bridge.
Okay.
That's how do we get you across the bridge? Because when you're coming to therapy, for example, and trauma therapy, you're in the wounded place most of the time. You're in the strictly emotional. I don't even know what happened. All I feel is all these things, and I can't rationalize, right? I can't reason. I don't find a reason for why this occurred if I loved him so much, right? Or just whatever example. Or if he loved me, or blah, blah, blah. And so we're not going to change, we're not going to change what happened. That's unfortunate, right? But we can come to an understanding of what happened.
Correct.
And the understanding already activates this biological sense of us of needing to know why. Like, humans always want to know why.
Yeah.
Like, what's the answer? You want to drive someone nuts, leave them without an answer. It's like, well, I just wanted to. What do you mean,
Mhm.
just wanted to? You
Correct.
know, you must have a reason. So, logic and our definition of how we understand a situation leads us to then comprehend why we feel what we feel.
Hmm.
And then it allows us to converse with self and say, okay, I am triggered by this instance or this situation because of this. And because of this, which I can't change, I now feel this. Okay, so then we can go to the next step. So, what are we going to do with the evidence that we have now? Now we have evidence
Hmm.
and we have understanding of self. So we can say, well, I like that. I don't like that. I like to feel that. I don't like to feel that. So, how do we not feel that again?
Hmm.
And by the way, I'm making it very simple. In trauma therapy, it doesn't get there right away. Sometimes it takes months, sometimes years.
Correct.
But the goal is to get you across the bridge, is
Mm.
to be able to say, okay, I was here,
Yes.
but I have access to this side, and now I can go back and forth, or maybe meet them in the middle.
Hmm.
And I have emotional intelligence. I have a capacity that I've
Mm.
now gained.
Correct.
So I'm strengthening the bridge between executive functioning and the emotional center of the brain.
Hmm.
Every day, it looks like I'm able to be emotional, but I'm also understanding why I'm emotional, and now
Correct.
I choose. And now I choose.
Mm. Mm.
So we're not defined only by the emotion that drives us.
Yes.
We have an access to reason and logic that can then regulate the self.
Hmm. Hmm.
So it's that concept, and now we multiply that concept and divide it as appropriate
Okay.
to others. But that's the root of it.
That's beautiful. I love you say choice and choice being a function of expanded awareness, right? So that now people, when they're on the one side of the bridge of the emotional side, now they now have a language, right? Before it was just an emotion, a raw
Yeah.
emotion or feeling, but now having a language as a result of an expanded awareness of exactly what they experienced and how they are reacting
Hmm.
based off of that experience. So I think that's so key in terms of expanding the awareness and providing a language to understand the nature of the emotion, going back to the very beginning. Can you talk about that? I know for some people who have experienced trauma, that going back to the beginning can be very unnerving. It can be very raw. How do
Hmm.
you create a container? How do you create a space where people feel comfortable and to your point in your bio, going into the messy closet, if you will, and dealing with the unfinished business? I think that is a skill set in and of itself to create that space. So how do you go about creating it?
Yeah. So here I go with some simplicity, but it's really intricate. It doesn't get done overnight.
Mhm.
But when I decided to be a trauma therapist and really niche in that area, and even just a therapist itself, every person who's been to school for therapy, psychology, etc., you know that the most important thing is the therapeutic relationship.
Mhm.
Every book over time has always said, yes, you have all these skills, but how are you building rapport?
Mhm.
How are you building that relationship?
Mhm.
So when you niche that into trauma, the main one of the main things, if not the main one, that is lost after trauma is trust.
Mm.
Someone violated your boundaries in whatever extent of the matter, and you no longer trust the same. The world
Mhm.
doesn't look the same because someone overstepped your boundary and
Mhm.
violated that.
Mhm.
So when you come to therapy, I cannot expect you to trust me.
Mhm.
I cannot expect my degree, my alphabet soup after my name, to have some sort of authoritative influence where you're just
Mhm.
going to tell me.
Mhm.
Um, I, I don't share that traditional form. It's like, oh, well, that's the doctor, that's the therapist. I have to tell them.
Yeah.
It's happened, it occurs, and I don't create that environment. I
Mhm.
want there to be a trust. I want to be transparent with you, within professional boundaries,
Correct.
where you automatically, literally, the moment we have that free consult I do,
Mhm.
the moment we have the consult, you're already feeling comfortable.
Mm.
I want you to check me out. I want you to see if this is a personality you'd like to work with. Beyond my skills, do you feel okay, like, okay, I can do this.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like that person you meet and you automatically feel comfortable with them.
Correct.
It's that energy that I have worked on making sure that I help people feel seen,
Mm-hmm.
heard, understood, and all of those things will lead you to at one point become more vulnerable because you need
Yes.
vulnerability in therapy.
Absolutely.
And then that leads you to trust that I'm not just going to play with your vulnerability.
Mm-hmm.
But in trauma, that's the first thing you think about. Oh, I'm not going to trust men again, or I'm not going to blah blah
Mm-hmm.
blah because I was already scarred. Not going there again.
Mm-hmm.
And you need vulnerability. You
Correct.
need pain to grow.
Mm-hmm.
So if we can't get there, we're not going to go anywhere. I'm not going to have an influence
Exactly.
over your process and your progress.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing I do is that relationship, is doing that consult, is having them get to know me. Any questions you have, any concerns? Do you have questions for me? I'm not offended if you're interviewing me, as you should if you're going to go tell me about your life.
Absolutely.
Um, and then we go from there. So as we get started in therapy, I always do an initial assessment. Most therapists do that. It's just to give me a clear picture of what we're looking at. I don't dive in your initial assessment to the depths of where you're not ready to go.
Correct. Correct.
I have seen that happen. I have had clients come to me after I have provided a referral and they have given me a summary of how someone went too deep too soon. And it just, first of all, it dysregulated their nervous system and they just wanted to flee. So they're never going to come back.
Mm-hmm.
So in the initial session, yes, I need to know headers because if I don't have headers, I don't have a guide for your goals and treatment.
Correct.
But I'm constantly observing someone's body language,
Mm-hmm.
the way they breathe. Their skin tone will change if they're too hot because of the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they sweat. Like, that's, I'll never do like just a phone session. Like we need to have at least video or of course in person.
Mm-hmm.
Because I need to see if even the slight question that I asked about violation XYZ,
Mm-hmm.
it already took you to a place you're stuttering.
Correct.
Like, so dysregulation is something I don't want to occur when your body is not in a rest, like in a more relaxed state or regulated state.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't do that in the beginning. I eventually, if I see that, I'm like, listen, real quick, if it's too much, we can do it as a yes or no.
Mm-hmm.
And the next time we can go a little bit further if that's the case. To add to that, and I'll finish off the answer with this example. I don't go to the major thing first when we start therapy. So
Mm-hmm.
the example is, imagine a bunch of boxes.
Correct.
You're not going to stack the boxes with the big box at the top and the little one at the bottom. You're going to stack the boxes small, medium, large.
Mm-hmm.
Large is the violation. Large
Mm-hmm.
is the main trauma, the roots of things. So, but when you come to therapy, you might tell me about the main box, but you're going, oh, but my husband always bitches at me, right? Like you're giving me some other stuff. You're giving me some
Correct.
headaches.
Mm-hmm.
You're not telling me how you can't sleep at night.
Yeah, give me some symptoms,
because,
right?
Right, you're giving me some symptoms.
Uh-huh.
You're not giving me roots, and you may touch on the roots, but your symptoms. So I need to tackle the small boxes, which is most likely the everyday stressors, the triggers of XYZ rooted in the bottom box. But we got to start small,
Correct.
Especially in trauma. I don't want to dive over here without you trusting me fully. Because once I'm here, I can't just step out.
Correct.
I can't just light the fire and walk away.
You're in.
So, right. So let's do the small stuff. Stress at work, crying episodes. Sometimes it's about regulating feelings. We know it's rooted in something, but wait, let's get you to not cry every day. Let's say, meaning that crying is not bad, but if we're having depressive episodes, I want to be able to diminish some of those so that we can have regulation and we can think straight.
It's beautiful.
Because if you can't think straight, I can't go over here.
Yeah, exactly.
Because if I go here too soon, what's going to happen? I can't take it. I'm going into an episode. I can't do this. I may not even come back.
Yeah, they'll shut down.
Right, and then I can't heal. I mean, you won't heal. I can't help you. And a lot of people get a bad experience from therapy because of that.
the key when you were talking is the ability to meet people exactly where they are.
Mm-hmm.
And you, the beauty of you being able to show up empty with an open heart and creating that space where people don't feel like they're being judged for the ugly things that they've kept in their closets for a long time. Well, allegedly, right? Because what you think you keep it in the closet is actually controlling you.
We all have a closet, people. Okay,
Exactly.
forever, whoever's listening and watching, we all have a closet.
Exactly.
Don't BS me.
Exactly.
You walk past it in the hallway. You're not even like, you're not looking at. You're like, it's there. I'm looking at you. The cat wants to go in that. The cat can go in that closet. I'm not going in that closet.
Exactly. Exactly. But whatever's in that closet is running the show. In some
Listen,
ways or another, is running the show.
if you are avoiding something, if you are consciously passing by your boss's office and ignoring a conversation
Yes.
or ignoring interaction, that says to me there's unfinished business or something you're avoiding. You don't want the confrontation. And it's not about the thing, it's about what that thing's going to bring.
Correct.
And that thing that it's going to bring, yes, it'll be uncomfortable. But how long are we going to keep it there? How long till the boss goes to your office and goes, hey, buddy,
Mm-hmm.
haven't heard from you in a week?
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing with trauma. And it's the
Okay.
same thing with any wound. How long until it knocks on your door and says, hey, how long are you going to like ignore the fact that you're not in a real relationship and you're being, your values are being compromised and you feel hurt all the time and you do all this just so that you can have a good Saturday a week?
Mm, that's powerful.
Who hasn't been there?
That's it. And what has it cost you by not addressing it? What has it cost you?
It's it chips away at the self.
Absolutely. And the question that always gets me is when were you going to change it? Once you come to the realization that it's there, what has
Mm-hmm.
it cost you? And then the
Mm-hmm.
next one is because you become aware of your own power.
Mm-hmm.
Only you can change it, right? Now you can have
Mm-hmm.
support of other people such as yourself to help you navigate those conversations and do that work safely in an
Mm-hmm.
environment where you feel comfortable and then also utilizing skills and tools that they've developed along the way. But at the end of the day, the authority and the power and the answer is you.
And it sounds, well, listen, it sounds simple when you're looking at it from a logical place, right? Like
Hmm.
you are no longer sitting in that feeling because you're post, the healing.
I'll say this though. I'll say for
Mm-hmm.
healing, what I'm learning about healing is that it's never done.
No,
It's ongoing. So
but
for
there's a
me, there's
capacity. Mm-hmm.
correct. There's been levels and layers that it's almost like forgiveness, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, forgiveness is healing, right? Right. And so for me, what I realized there are levels or layers to the onion. And if I pull off the top layer and I keep going, the moment that I feel like, hey, everything is good, I can dust it off and go, there's still another layer to go, right?
And then
I have
when you're done with that onion, there's another onion. By the way, there's a whole pack of them.
Exactly, exactly. So it's always for me, it's always a healing journey, developing a practice of self forgiveness, right? Forgiveness continuing every day, making it part as a constant attitude of
Mm-hmm.
forgiving. And to your point, it's not simple, right? Because there's a lot of emotion and there's a lot of energies and things that are tied into it. In many respects, our own identity becomes
Mm-hmm.
a part of that story, a part of that trauma. So we ask ourselves the question, who are we outside of that story,
Right.
outside
And
of that
I
identity?
and I was going to add into that is I'll tell you why so what are we doing to change it, right? That's the
Hmm.
question.
Hmm.
And that is again a very black and white question,
Hmm.
but I'll tell you what the issue is. The issue is that in order to create change, we have to admit to loss.
Mm.
There's gains and there's losses.
Mm.
So especially, let's say even in relationships, that's a very common topic.
Hmm.
You have to grieve, whether it's a
Hmm.
part of you, a part of the relationship, whatever it is, it's just going to be a loss. There's not going to be change without loss. There's also gain. So you're going to have gains and losses when you change because you're changing hopefully for the better.
Hmm.
But even changing for the better will take a level of effort where you have to not forget, let go of.
Hmm.
You have to
Hmm.
release
Yeah.
that old part of you.
Come on now.
And the old part of you is either holding on to that relationship, is holding on to that thing, place, person, thing, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't want that. We don't want change because we don't want to lose. Because if we lose something, although
Mm-hmm.
we're still gaining,
Mm-hmm.
see, our focus needs to be on the gain, but it often isn't. It's often on the loss. It's on the loss and what we have to embrace,
Mm-hmm.
which is the unknown.
Mm.
We have to
That
go to another level. We got to level up,
that part.
and we want it, right? In our dreams and our visions, we want to level up.
Mm-hmm.
But what we have to do to level up is leave this level behind.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that loss, that grief, that is an issue for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And if only they understood that it's just that step and the next step to create a bigger gap between this one that wasn't helping you
That's
and the
right.
one that is, and the version of you that's over here is a much more healed,
Correct.
evolved. It's even a version of you in my case. Let's say that I can help more people in many different ways because I
Mm-hmm.
chose to leave here and go through
Correct.
the pain.
Yes.
Human beings don't want pain. We're built for comfort. Like our body will take us back to the comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
But it's been studied. We know that without pain, there's no growth. I mean, we have growing pains when we're growing up,
Right.
and there's no pain. You don't go to the gym without pain
Mm-hmm.
in order for that muscle to grow, to tighten. You ain't got to be, I'm sure there's a bunch of diets out there and say, don't starve. Okay, listen, we're all going to go a little hungry if we're going to lose weight because we have to lower the calorie intake,
Mm-hmm.
burn more than you intake. So there's a, subtraction problem there.
Mm-hmm.
And then we, adjust
That's right.
to a new lifestyle so that we can gain
Mm-hmm.
this new physique or whatever.
Mm. Mm.
So when you have to get a new physique emotionally,
Mm-hmm.
it there needs to be emotional intelligence. There has to be a capacity built. You're not going to get a higher weight class, right? You're not going to get into not weight class. I'm saying that you're not going to get a
Mm-hmm.
higher weight
Mm-hmm.
if you didn't build a capacity for lifting the smaller weight.
That's right.
So emotionally, if we're not allowing ourselves to feel the pain
Mm-hmm.
of the growth, the loss, everything, we're not going to gain a capacity for pain, which means we can't deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
I can't bench 100 if I didn't start at 50 or 20.
Mm-hmm.
But I had to endure I had to go through what it takes to get to the 100. So then one day I can turn around and go, oh, I can do 100 like nothing.
There we go.
Like now, like, oh, I'm in this relationship and I just see the red flags and I can do this like nothing. Like, listen, it's been like 2 weeks and I already see it. It's not for me. Been there, done that. I have a capacity. I'm not attached to a potential outcome.
There we go.
I just know that there's some things I don't like. They're deal breakers for me. And I, with all the love, I wish you the best. And you're no longer the old version that was like, oh, but maybe it could work. Maybe if we try 3 more months and we invest more money here, it's going to have a different turnout. You're like, the core is the core.
That's it.
And, so I can go on and on about it, but it's hard. No. But you got to do what you got to
do. It takes a practice. It takes a daily practice, a commitment to the transformation. We talked about pain. One of my favorite quotes from Reverend Michael Beckwith is, pain pushes until the vision pulls. The pain of who you are and that circumstances, those conditions that are pushing you to the next greatest version of yourself will continue until you come in alignment and develop a practice. And so you can see, I mean, it's hard to see outside of your present paradigm. Can't see those things.
It's so cool when you hit alignment, though.
Beautiful.
Like I can't. It probably sound cliche, but it's like when you come into a place where there is this homeostasis within yourself, where there is this relationship with self, where you are authentically you.
Correct.
In a higher version of you, right? Because we all have things to work on. So we're in the constant state of growth, but we're so aligned and we're not over compromising, whatever values we hold, we're fully living in them. The people around us, for the most part, share similar values. Everything just feels good. the disruption and change and earthquakes come because life is life, but you're not living a constant earthquake.
Correct.
And that's the challenge, that a lot of people, going from the everyday to, oh, I will have a peaceful inner place
Mm-hmm.
where I love myself and I'm cool with me.
Mm-hmm.
um they sometimes don't even think that exists, like, oh, that might
Mm.
not be possible.
Correct.
Yeah.
That part. That part, that it may not be possible, that doesn't exist. And you talked about those earthquakes, and a lot of those things, it could be when you're not in alignment, the inner work that needs to be done, right? The inner work that needs to be done to help you navigate those earthquakes, right? So that you're not
Hmm.
so determined, or the outcomes, or your perspective on life is not so determined by the external aspects, right? Because as we say in metaphysics, is as above, so below, the universal
Hmm.
laws, right? As
Hmm.
within, so without. And so when you have that homeostasis internally, thereby you're going to radiate those qualities, and then you will have challenges, but the way that you
Yeah.
approach those challenges will be completely different, will be
Hmm.
completely different in that new paradigm, that new perspective and understanding. So
Yeah, no,
dope.
no one's gonna get away from the things that are guaranteed in life.
No.
No, no one's, oh, we're all gonna have a bill for pain, loss, and change.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But it's like you're saying, it's what we do with it and how we are coming to the plate. Like, what
Yeah.
do we do in the practice for when the
Mm.
show, for when there's the game.
Come on now, come on now, and getting to the place where we become grateful for those things, that's when they show up,
Yeah. I
because that's
mean,
the call for the
mhm,
next version. That that whatever that is, that's the challenge for us to grow into the next version of ourselves. So it
mhm,
may stink, we may not like it. Life is still good, but we may not like the phase that we are in when we face those challenges. But when we really get down to it, I think it is a call for gratitude, because the next great version of yourself is on the other side of that challenge.
mhm. And I think that it's the dissonance that is
Yes.
experienced
Yes.
in that time that I'm very empathic with clients about it. I understand it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but like I tell everyone who has already sought me out for therapy, they're looking for change. Like, they may just not know how, but you're not here wondering if this is for you. So so it is for you. So are you ready to step up to the plate? And we can go
Mm-hmm.
real slow. I mean, we
Mm-hmm.
can definitely hit. We can bat at it like really slow motion. And we can put the video on like, like it doesn't have to go really fast.
Exactly.
But we do have to eventually come to that understanding of growth will take change. It's gonna go
Mm-hmm.
through some losses. Pain is
Yeah.
inevitable.
Mm-hmm.
So when you factor it in, it's like you don't even look at pain as a problem anymore.
Yeah.
It's just part of it.
Yeah.
So if I stop resisting the inevitable,
Mm-hmm.
the problem that I have to solve isn't as perplexing. It's like it's a problem, it's hard,
Correct.
but I knew it was going to be hard. I knew it was
Mm-hmm.
going to be challenging.
Mm-hmm.
I knew it would throw me for a loop.
Mm-hmm.
So we get past that part
Yes.
and then we just go to the solution.
There we go.
That
That.
way we don't get stuck. Let's not get stuck in the loop of emotion of the why. Why does this have to
Mm-hmm.
happen to me?
Yes. The disempowering questions. The disempowering questions.
Yeah.
Why?
Mhm.
Why? It was so funny. I remember going to my to have a spiritual practitioner, and
Mhm.
talk about empowering questions and disempowering questions. And of course, disempowering is why. Empowering is, what is seeking to emerge in my life at this time? What has this challenge come to bring me?
Mhm.
What gifts are in this challenge? Those are questions that you ask. Then you will get insight and solutions. But why is going to lead to more questions and get you nowhere. Will get you nowhere.
A lot of people don't see pain as a gift. I know it's a little untraditional maybe to say, like, it's
Mhm.
pain is pain, and I know there's a lot of therapists, mental health healers too, that would maybe take that the wrong way, and but pain is there to teach us something.
Mm-hmm.
It's there to make us aware of something.
Yes.
It's an indicator. Emotions are indicators.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, hi, you feel sad, and if we could teach our children to do this from a young age, where, the emotions are letting you know something is there,
Yes.
you don't have to just sit in them for an extended period of time.
That's right. That's
It
right.
sounds, I guess, maybe a little less therapeutic, but there's a difference between I'm holding your hand as we go through the bridge and the fire
Mm-hmm.
versus I just let you sit in it.
That's different. Yeah.
So we need to build that mental toughness where we are being authentic to self.
Mm-hmm.
I feel whatever, we recognize it, acknowledge it, and then we also know we're more than that emotion.
Correct.
The emotion does not dictate.
Mm-hmm.
They indicate what's up, and then you use your logic, reasoning, your sources, whatever, to then take you to a place past that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that you can, get that endurance, that
That's
emotional
right.
intelligence.
That's right.
And then we pass that test, right? It's like, oh yeah, I went to that class.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I went to the loss and grief class. So like when change comes around and something, oh, I know loss and grief are coming with it.
Mm.
And so I may not like it, but I've already been through that play.
You know it. You've been there before. That's powerful. That's powerful to recognize the pain is an indicator.
Mm-hmm.
It's an indicator. That's
Sometimes it's the
powerful.
indicator to stop.
Yeah.
Oh, I have a high tolerance for pain. Well, I don't care.
Like, that's just called stubbornness.
Listen. There's an opposite. Like everything, right? Everything has an opposite.
Mm-hmm.
There's an opposite to this. You can have so much capacity for emotion that you don't realize when enough is enough.
That's right.
And you'll take the beating, and you'll keep taking the beating, and you'll keep taking the beating, and say, "Oh, I can take it." That's not the point.
The point isn't to keep taking.
The point is to recognize you don't deserve the beating.
Mm-hmm.
The beating,
right.
the pain that the first beating cost you was an indicator.
Right.
So that we can correct course or whatever it is we need to do, course correct.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't so you just keep taking the same beating.
That's right.
And there's a lot of us in any type of instance, not just one arena, keep taking the beating. And it's like, listen, I have one exception. If you have a pervasive developmental disorder, you obviously have a cognitive limitation that keeps you from seeing right or wrong, like a severe organic cognitive issue. Then I get it. Your brain doesn't know any better.
Correct.
And that's why, people like guardian ad litems exist, people who come in for the vulnerable adult or child. Correct. Or elderly. But outside from that, if you're good and you're pretty stable, a lot of us are, what are you doing?
That's right. There's a distinction between pain and suffering. Between pain and suffering, there's a quote, a Buddhist quote: "Pain is inevitable, and suffering is optional." It's optional. I mean, we've all been in situations where we've encountered pain. My perspective, the suffering comes in when we choose not to acknowledge and recognize the pain, and do the work. And I don't say that to be overly simplistic, but it's a call there. As you said, it's an indicator. It's an indicator of growth, of transformation, of change that needs to happen. So, that's powerful. That is powerful. I always like to bring it back to a segment in the show where we talk about the practice. The practice. We're all we all are practicing something, and what we practice, we end up embodying.
Yeah.
So, during this time of National Mental Health Awareness Month, what are some of the practices we can use to have peace, to help work through our trauma, and just have a better understanding of ourselves?
So I'm gonna bring it back to even what we were talking about, like self-love and it's not just, by the way, it's not coming from a place of selfishness, but it is coming from a place of recognition.
Mm.
So one thing that, if I could just tell everyone to practice all day, every day, okay,
Mm-hmm.
and within reason, is
Yes.
awareness.
There we go.
Okay,
Mm.
awareness, remaining present,
Yes.
seeing things for what they are,
Mm-hmm.
seeing people for who they show you to be,
Okay.
not who we want them to be.
Mm.
Um, that includes all relationships, spouse, children, parent, family, friends, jobs,
Mm-hmm.
any category.
Yes.
Because when we practice awareness, which can also be led into an intuition, to an extent,
Mm-hmm.
with awareness, your body and your mind and your soul, your spirit, for those who believe in that, will lead you to the alignment, to the authenticity. You just have to listen.
Mm-hmm.
We live in a society, and I'm guilty of it. We go on autopilot. We just don't go, do.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't stop to realize that maybe something in the matrix changed.
Mm.
And we
Mm.
ignore, sometimes on the run, we ignore that uncomfortable feeling of like, I don't think that's the one, or
Correct.
that's not the decision. And a lot of us have never learned how to differentiate between the openness and it's like a settled feeling about a
Mm-hmm.
decision, like this feels right, is how a lot of us will say it.
Yes.
This comes with peace, serenity, security,
Mm-hmm.
strength.
Mm-hmm.
It's not coming with anxiety and worries and wonder.
Correct.
But when you're anxious and you're excited, physiologically you get the same reaction,
Mm-hmm.
physiologically.
Yes.
So it's like I'm nervous and I'm excited. Well, I don't know, um, which one are you? So it's
Mm.
like Simon Sinek talks about it too. He's a psychologist, and he
Mm-hmm.
has this analogy. It's like if you're on a plane and I'm nervous, it's going to feel the same way as if I'm excited, It's going to feel.
Yeah.
They're different, but
Mm-hmm.
it'll kind of give you like bodily secretions. Like you'll sweat if you're
Mm-hmm.
excited as much as if you're nervous.
Correct.
And so when we're in there and making decisions, bringing it, full circle here, and we're being more aware,
Mm-hmm.
where is this taking me? Where is
Mm.
that person taking me? Where is that job taking me? How does my
Mm.
body react to that? And
Correct.
yes, if you've never done this before, it could make you very confused. And obviously, there's a level of self reflection that needs to come with that.
Mm-hmm.
But if we got really good at that, we would make better decisions.
Mm.
Because, in my belief, we all serve a purpose,
Mm-hmm.
and we all have a calling, or we all have something we do differently than someone else.
Yes.
When we're not authentic, when we're not aligned, morals, values, beliefs, self, identity, everything,
Mm-hmm.
we may just be chasing the wrong thing,
Mm.
person, dreams. We may just be doing what we think we should be doing, but is that authentic to us? Most
Mm-hmm.
of the things that are authentic to you, and expansion, when expansion hits you, it's not comfortable.
Yes.
You're not sitting in comfortable when expansion calls your name.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're aware enough to see that, and you already know from books or talks or whatever that change is uncomfortable, but
Mm-hmm.
so is growth,
That's right.
and the goal is growth, then we just assume the task.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
like I'm in an upward, it's uphill. John Maxwell talks about, growth is uphill.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm just steady, maybe it is a steady and cruising time in a business.
Mm-hmm.
It's the season. But if you're not going uphill, most of the things are staying the same. And is that what we want?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's it. That's it. It's the growth. That's where the practice kicks in, right? Because with the practice, you're going to expand your awareness. And when you expand your awareness, you see more possibility.
Mm-hmm.
But when you see more possibility, there's also that uncertainty,
Yes.
right? We
That's
talked about
everything, though.
exactly. But it takes the practice so that you can to uphold, right, to uphold you during that transformation, right? Because without that practice, vibrationally, you cannot maintain that
Hmm.
alignment. You cannot maintain that posture that you are going to need to step
Hmm.
into that new version of you. It's that
Hmm.
undergirding that that we have. I think that's beautiful. That transformation aspect of it, of needing the practice,
Yeah.
expanding our awareness to see it, because they're
And
right there.
honoring all that
Yes.
is just one category of self-love. You know what I mean?
Thank you. You brought it
On,
home. Yes.
yeah, honoring all that is loving the self.
Yes.
That includes, exiting some places, taking some people out,
Mm-hmm.
some things
Mm-hmm.
out,
Yeah.
detoxing.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Being gentle
we
with
don't want to do
yourself.
that.
Being
Hmm.
gentle with yourself. Sometimes it's okay to take a recess from the process, right? To take a
You're not
honor
giving
yourself.
up. Right. You're
Yeah.
not giving up because you
Mm-mm.
put pause for a moment.
That's right. That's right. To be gentle with yourself. This is deep work.
Yeah,
It's
just
deep
don't
work.
linger. Just don't
No, no,
linger in
don't linger.
don't linger in purgatory.
No, no, no.
Because
Don't linger. Don't
I'm
linger.
like, don't linger there. We take a pause. We get, we do a 24, 48 hour, whatever you need to recover.
Correct.
Again, bringing it back to the gym. There's recovery,
Correct.
but you're going back in on Wednesday. Like,
Yes.
you're coming back.
That's the beauty of having an accountability partner as well to help you. But there is self love in being gentle with yourself and understanding that your work you're doing is transforming your life. And there are going to be parts that are of you that you perceive to be you that are going to be challenged.
Hmm.
And it can bring up a lot of things in your life. And it's okay to say, you know what? I'm going to be gentle with myself today. But make
Hmm.
sure you don't stay down there too long. Make sure to your point that you get back up and keep moving. But be gentle with yourself because this growth work it can be challenging. It can be
Yeah.
challenging.
And you
Indeed.
have to restore. You have to
Yes.
let those muscles kind of rest a little bit so that they can
Mhm.
go, and do more weight or whatever,
Yeah.
so you just,
It
a lot
doesn't
of
mean
my
you're
clients.
giving up.
Correct. A lot of my clients are overachievers. So, like, when I
Mhm.
ask them to pause, what do you mean?
Y-
What's my
Yeah.
homework? Like, why do I have to I'm like, listen, because you don't stop. That's why I need you to
Yeah.
stop.
Yes.
You're the opposite. Some people,
Hmm.
I want to get them out of a hole. I need to stop you from running.
Yeah.
You're going to
Yeah.
run yourself into a cast.
Hmm. Hmm.
And it doesn't mean you're giving up. It means you're allowing yourself to be human.
That's right. That's right.
Everyone's timeline is different.
That's it.
It's not a set time.
Mm-mm.
I was the queen of, like, deadlines. I'm gonna have kids by then, be married by a certain time. Like, mind you, I achieved them, but
Hmm.
there was some crash and burn later on
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
you're not making decisions from the right place.
Mm. Mm.
I mean, I didn't know the things that I know today, so now I can teach them,
That's the
and I can
beauty of
help
it.
my children. But if anyone's listening, and not if, sorry, when people are listening to this, they they can apply these things,
Absolutely.
and they can, hopefully, some 20-year-old is listening,
Mm.
and they can gain the goods ahead of time,
Come on now.
which
Come on
is
now.
which the point here, right?
Listen.
Is for us to pass these things on to a generation that isn't sitting there going, "Well, it's too late."
Mm. Mm. I love it. I love it. We say wisdom, excuse me, experience is the best teacher. I think wisdom. Wisdom is the best, where you don't have to necessarily go through that experience, where you have the wisdom to know where you can navigate through that. Sometimes it is you need to integrate that into your life, right? But if someone can give me wisdom and say, hey, you know what? The way is over there. Beautiful.
Shoot,
Thank
I'll take
you.
it.
Exactly. I don't have to go through the fires. No, thank you. I'll use your wisdom. Thank you. And I appreciate that. And
But
I'll pay
but
it
human, I
forward.
mean, the human condition doesn't necessarily do that. So I get it. Most
Yeah.
of us need to go through the fire, get burned a couple times. Like, oh, by the way, Joey was right.
Listen.
Like,
Right.
listen, buddy.
Mm, mm. Yeah, I think it
You
depends
know.
where you're operating from. To your point earlier, the 20-year-old Andre, I would go through the experience of it. This iteration of Andre got the wisdom. I'm all for it. I'm here for it. I'm here
You know what?
for it.
I think makes a difference
Yes,
is
yes.
if you don't, and this is just one factor, but if you don't have a mentor, a parent, a friend, someone a little
Mhm.
older that you allow to speak
Mm-hmm.
into your life,
Mm-hmm.
you're not open to the wisdom because no one has access to you. No one has gained the access. And authoritative relationships don't necessarily have the access. If you're, 15 years old and you live with your parents, you do what they say because you live with them. You don't
That's right.
necessarily maybe agree, or do they have influence over you? You're just following directions.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So when you have someone that has the wisdom and then you allow them to have access to you to have an influence, and then you choose to apply that, that's gold.
Mm-hmm.
So I do aim in my therapeutic relationships to have that level of trust and have that level of influence where I'm able to pass this on. It's not just
Mm-hmm.
theory, it's life. We're all dealing with life.
Yes.
And now, despite whether you're 20 or 60, there's some nuggets I'm throwing out there
Mm-hmm.
that you are open to receiving. That's how change happens. I can't
Mm-hmm.
make you do it.
That's right.
So, whoever's listening, yeah, get yourself a mentor, somebody with wisdom, and then tap into time with them. I mean, I still have. It's not like like you said, it's ongoing. It's not like I have reached this euphoria, this
Mm-hmm.
place. I continue to have mentors, and it just when you get to a little later in life, you seek them out based on the category. It's not a
Correct.
totality anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, I
Mm-hmm.
need one for relationships. I need one in business, or I need one, on a female issues. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. That's
And
right.
so, yeah, that's just some piece of advice there.
Sound advice. Sound advice. Someone that can speak into your life, that has access to speak into your life, the whole, I like to say, the high watch for you. Someone has already
Hmm.
been there. They understand the challenges, they understand the conditions, but they see you at your highest potential. They see you at your highest potential and use the power of their wisdom and their words
Hmm.
to help activate and inspire you to fulfill that potential that's already there, that may be
Yeah.
latent to you, that you may
Hmm.
not see, right? That's the beauty of it. They see
And
things in you that you don't see.
and there's people. Listen, I'll speak to even people who don't have maybe the person to reach out to. Right? They don't have that particular um, in-person access.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much information out there.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many podcasts, books, audiobooks. Like, you just start searching on the one thing that's troubling you,
Mm-hmm.
and you come up with so many different authors, theories, writers, public speakers,
Mm-hmm.
doctors. Find that alignment with you. Where's that chat, that TED talk, that book? It kind of speaks to what I'm trying to learn about. Let me give it a shot.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't need it to be a live person. Is a live person better? Great, yeah, because you can actually see proof of what you're trying to get to. But these people who wrote this book, this person who's doing the TED talk, this person who's doing this podcast, they are doing it with a mission.
Mm-hmm.
If we find an aligned vision there, then we can grow from that. Go,
Mm-hmm.
shopping cart approach and take some notes and go ahead and apply the things they're teaching. See if it's real.
Mm-hmm.
Challenge yourself with, like, you know what? I don't know what Andre's saying, but it kind of sounds cool. Let me go try it.
Mm-hmm.
Give it a shot. You don't like it? Do something else.
That's
But
right.
but don't just sit there and think this is just it.
Mm. Mm. Don't just sit there and think this is it. There's always more. There's
Hmm.
always more good. There's always
Always.
more good. Always more good. You know, one of the things that came to mind when we were talking about self love, one of the empowering questions that we can ask ourselves on a daily basis, right, is what is the greatest act of self love I can give today? I can do today. The greatest act of
Mm-hmm.
self love I can do today, to make sure, because a lot of times, particularly now in society, we busy. I don't know what doing what, right? Busy doing things. A lot of stuff we probably should be doing, right? But busy, but lose sight of ourselves, trying to show up
Mm-hmm.
for this person, show up for this event, show up for this job, and lose who the most important actor, director,
Mm-hmm.
and writer in this entire production. Lose sight of that. So I asked the
Mm-hmm.
question, what is the greatest act of self love I can do today? It could be sitting in the park for a few minutes. It could be
Mm-hmm.
having a pause in a conversation just to bring more light and energy to it. It could be a compliment because what you
Yeah.
say about others, you say about yourself.
You're an example
Mhm.
of it's an example of your character, how you treat
Yeah.
others.
Yeah.
I find that, and this goes into just my realm of trauma and clients and just people in general that I've come across. We're in a lot of folks, and I've been in this boat before. We're in this mentality. Some people call it scarcity, some people call it poverty mindset.
Mhm. Mhm.
We're sitting in a place where you know we don't feel deserving
Mm.
of love.
Yes.
So cognitively, in a common sense place, you do. You're like, oh yeah, of course, you're a
Mhm.
priceless possession, and or you're priceless and blah blah blah. But we don't really believe that it can happen for us.
Mm.
We know it is necessary. We know we can do that for others. A
Yeah,
lot of times,
definitely.
people are giving it and not really. They're giving it out, but they're not giving it to themselves.
Correct.
So we're in this mindset that just says that's not for me, and they don't see it that way,
Mhm.
but their actions, their relationships, just it's an
Correct.
evidence of that. And it's going through the process of believing that love, or even like relationships, life in general, is not a continuous struggle.
Mhm. Come
Like
on.
let me
Come on now.
differentiate that from going uphill and change.
Mhm.
Going uphill and change and taking on a challenge for the sake of growth is one thing, but you believing like there's no way out of this hamster wheel,
Mm.
because this is just what I do, this is just the life I live, this is just the way it's going to be, you know that is not loving yourself, or even
Mhm.
believing that there's more for you, so you ultimately end up hurting you.
Mm.
So finding a way to be in that inner harmony, like you're saying, if it's going to the park
Mhm.
and just kind of recentering yourself, even if it's 5 minutes, you know, if you're not at harmony on the inside with you, like
Mhm.
how is your person feeling when you're alone?
Mm. That part.
And a lot of people don't embrace being alone for an X amount of time because it's too
Mhm.
much.
Mhm.
Too much stuff comes up,
Exactly.
and they just rather be in the go 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 and the autopilot and the busyness, so they never have to be alone.
Mhm.
But however it is that you feel when the lights are off, 2 in the morning, like when you can't sleep, all those things that are coming up for you, more indicators of potentially how you're not loving yourself.
Mm.
And we need to start pointing those out, and then obviously engaging in self love of whatever that looks like.
Mm. Wow. Indicators of you not loving yourself and not feeling worthy to be
Hmm.
loved. I could tell you what the most seminal moment I've had in my life in terms of understanding self love
Hmm.
came when I was in the ayahuasca ceremony. I Before I felt like I knew self love through through meditation, taking time, being intentional about
Hmm.
providing. But I didn't understand self love until I got into that ceremony where I understood just how sacred we are as beings.
Hmm.
Totally, it totally shifted my understanding of who I am, who we are, and how blessed we are to be here, but yet also, and most importantly, how sacred we are to be here. When we understand the sacred nature of our being, to have a
Hmm.
physical incarnation, a representation of whatever you want to call it. You want to call it love, divine love, God, Allah, whatever you want to call it, but to be a physical representation of that, how sacred we are, it is difficult to not love yourself after you've seen that. It is very difficult because not only do you
Hmm.
see it in yourself, you then see it in the face and in the light in every other person that's around you. The sacred nature of who we are as beings.
and
It's unforgettable.
and let me ask you a question.
Yes.
So post that realization,
Mm-hmm.
did you or did you not have any sort of thoughts around the fact of how much you had not been loving yourself and the things that you allowed things and people to not give you the love you deserved?
1,000%. 1,000%, because it's the contrast, right? It's the understanding of how I was approaching things previously versus seeing something that I now know, right? It was an old
Hmm.
belief versus now swapping that out with knowledge. I can't unsee that. I cannot
Hmm.
unsee the sacred nature of my being and the sacred nature of other people's being. And so whenever I encounter a similar situation, my awareness is completely different,
Hmm.
completely different. Because I'm like,
And
I,
when,
mhm.
yeah, no, no, go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's like, oh wait, no, 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 no. That time that I go into the woods by myself, that's non-negotiable. That time, those moments that I give to myself, that's non-negotiable. That's that practice that I have that I've developed, so I can show up. That's my overflow. That's my overflow, so that I can show up
Hmm.
for other people,
Hmm.
right? But I show up for me first because I realize how blessed I am to be here, how blessed we are to be here. And that changed, radically changed everything.
Hmm.
Everything. So it required a lot of
When,
letting go.
yeah, and that's exactly what I was gonna say. Is the challenge is in that release, in that letting go,
Yes.
in that point of realization, which you can't unsee what you've seen,
Hmm.
but now you have a responsibility.
To act. To act. And that
And
there
that,
that's a
mhm.
practice. That's where the
And
practice
a
comes.
lot of people get stuck there,
Yeah.
and that's where we come in,
Yes.
because you got to finish the job.
Come on now. It's scary. Listen, and the funny part, the part that helped me the most, and I remember Bob Proctor, for me the most uh noteworthy moment was in The Secret, the movie The Secret, right? But picked him up
Hmm.
on YouTube later. We talked about finding the person that can inspire you, right? And speaking to your life. And I remember going through that transformation, seeing the sacred nature of a being, and then knowing that I had to have corresponding action to integrate into my new perspective, my new paradigm. And I see
Right.
Bob Proctor, and he's like, just jump, jump, you'll grow wings along the way. And that was exactly it. It's like you just don't get the understanding, the new awareness. There's an
Mhm.
accompanying integration that has to take place as well. There's a step that needs to be taken. And that step may be scary, but once again, it goes back. One of the best questions you can ask yourself: is the universe friendly or not? Is the universe friendly? And your answer determines your outlook. Because if you say yes, you'll jump.
A lot
But
of
if you say
people are
no,
gonna,
you'll
it's going
stay
to
on
say
the edge.
no. A lot of people are going to say no, and it's shaped by experiences, shaped from trauma, shaped from a lot of issues and pain they have felt, and they're going to
Hmm.
say it's a scary place, it's a dangerous place. People
Hmm.
don't have the best intentions. They're going to say all that, and I'm not going to say they're wrong, but am I going to let that stop me from
Mm-mm.
my evolution?
No.
Like, am I going to stop playing the game?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Because that's the alternative.
Yep.
The alternative to change is stagnation.
Correct.
So you're choosing stagnation. No, I'm not. I'm like, yes, you are.
Hmm.
You're going to realize that you're only going to go so far
This is
before
it.
you're stuck again. Because you're not on this, like, what's that called? Like electric. It's not an escalator, but it's at
Like the
the
ones at the
airport. It just goes
airport,
like
right?
this.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah.
Like,
They
you
just
need to
go
be
fast.
on that, even if it's just like really slow, but
Hmm.
it's moving.
Right.
I don't want you to go.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
And those are like existential crisis, right? Like that's then we have all these things. Oh my god, what am I doing? Who am I really?
Correct.
Well, we're supposed to be on that continuum.
Hmm.
So we got to go like a couple grades back. Let's go repeat fourth grade and let's go do that. Take some tests, move
That's
you up
right.
on
That's
the
right.
mover. The mover, right? Something that it's called like something like that. The mover. And it's challenging, man, but it's one of the most rewarding things you're gonna do for self. And the moment that if people just believed that the moment that they overcome that little bit of fear.
Mm-hmm.
They take a little bit of that risk,
Yeah.
and they're betting on themselves. I mean, you're not betting on anyone else. It's for you.
Mm-hmm.
Despite the pain that comes with it, there's such a gain
Mm-hmm.
on the realization of who you can be.
Mm.
Um, that then kind of it shifts things into gear. All you got to do is take that one step, that little leap,
Mm-hmm.
and then of course, if you do that with a mentor or a therapist or any kind of sort of resource,
Mm-hmm.
you have something to fall back on. We may fly together for a little bit, but the point is, you're going to see yourself fly.
That's right.
You didn't think you could, and now you can. So that's all you need is one disconfirming experience,
There we go.
and then you're like,
Mm-hmm.
if I did it once, then it's possible. I can't tell myself it's not possible anymore. Like you can, but you're lying.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And and that's going to lead you to significant growth.
That's where it's at. That's exactly where it's at. We have the examples. I think, if we've been through trauma and we've gone through challenging circumstances and we're still here, we have the
Mm-hmm.
example of where our back was pressed against the wall
Mm-hmm.
and we still came out all right. We can hold on to that. For us, that could be the place marker. That could be, you put that in the book, in the story that we're telling ourselves, that we've been
Yeah,
with back against the wall. So we know it's possible. That's all we get. We can get to the
100%.
place where we can say, is it possible? Yes, it's
Mm-hmm.
possible. You don't have
Right.
to know how. You can just say, yes, it's possible. And
Mm-hmm.
that'll get you. That'll get you to where you need to go to.
Yeah. When we when we understand that life is finite, I know again, logically we all know it.
Mm-hmm.
But have we really internalized the thought and feeling of it that life is
Mm-hmm.
finite? Like that you do you know? Okay, so the alternative to change is stagnation. But the flip side to stagnation is that you will die this way.
Mm-hmm.
Like you take it beyond, it's like, all right, so we got stagnation and we're gonna choose stagnation, great. What's behind door number one is that's it.
Mm-hmm.
You're living your future.
Mm-hmm.
Do you like that? A lot of people will say no. So we're gonna go back to square one. Change. And then we land on stagnation.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, but I
Keep
don't want
repeating.
the alternative. Okay, we go back.
Keep
We
repeating
go.
it.
And I feel, and this goes maybe beyond psychology. I feel like the soul's purpose is to evolve,
Yes.
is to have the human experience to then take them to a next level energetically.
Mm-hmm.
We are given resources and people, and again, and within our experience, there's hidden gems. Everyone's experience, there's little keys that they're supposed to find, and within that storyline, that soul is supposed to be doing something
Mm-hmm.
or a number of things. Are we taking on that task? Because no one's going to tell me that someone who feels stuck and who has not embraced change and is just being okay with being okay is completely fulfilled. I'm sorry. No, you're not.
Mm-hmm. No. Mm-hmm.
No. And then you try to fill yourself with other distractions to tell yourself you're cool, but now you're in a constant chase for those highs. But when
Mm-hmm.
you're alone, you're miserable. Don't bullshit
Mm-hmm.
me. You are.
Mm-hmm.
So why not go the other way?
That's right. That's right.
So I encourage whoever's listening to take an account of those little keys they haven't picked up to open those doors to unlock that next level.
Mm. Beautiful. Beautiful. The soul. We get into the soul. That's why we have this channel. That's why we have this platform to help people unlock or fulfill their soul's potential. We're here
Mm-hmm.
from a perspective where the personality serves the soul. There's so much beauty in us. There's so much possibility, so much potential. It's up to us to have a practice, to move on this planet with an open heart, That starts with self-love, loving ourselves, and
Mm-hmm.
honoring the sacred nature of our being. Honoring the sacred nature of our being. We are not the traumas that happen to us. We're
No.
not the stories that we've told ourselves. We are infinite potential, divine reflections of whatever you may want to call that presence. Many names, but that's who we are, the essence and
Mm-hmm.
everything, all things are possible. That's what I want people to get to understand. That when you get to that point in your life where there's pain, and that pain is the calling for you to grow into the next version of the next greatest version of yourself,
Yeah.
understand and hold on to the possibility of it. The same thing that when you were in the previous state where your back was against the wall and you made it through, take an ember from that moment and carry it
Mm-hmm.
with you on your quest to that next version of yourself because you have evidence. You have evidence that is always working for your good. It's always working for your good.
100%. I believe that.
Indeed. Maggie, thank you. Thank you so much. What a beautiful conversation. What a beautiful being you are. What an open and loving heart that you give to everyone. And I appreciate you for being on the show. I appreciate your wisdom and your knowledge. And I appreciate how you're showing up as a beautiful presence for people on this planet. You're amazing. And thank you so much for joining.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me on and just being open to a conversation with a stranger and
Not a stranger, my
multiplying
sister.
that.
You're my sister. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. How can we get in contact with you? How can the folks who checked in today keep up with you?
Sure. So the name of the practice is National Therapeutic Alliance. So you can reach out to us. Instagram and Facebook are the same handle. So National Therapeutic Alliance. The website is www.nationaltherapeuticalliance.com. Or if you want to reach out to us for questions or potentially looking for therapy or any sort of guidance, our text line is 954-570-1332. And so in any way, shape, or form, you want email. So info@nationaltherapeuticalliance.com. It's all pretty similar.
Excellent. Excellent. Super easy, super simple.
Mm-hmm.
Maggie, thank you so much. I will have her details in the description of the video. Thank you. Appreciate you for checking out. Appreciate you for tuning in. Everybody remember, if it ain't all good, it just means it ain't all done. Shay.
Thank you.